Hey, so this is my maybe fourth or fifth attempt at doing a podcast properly here. We get a lot of asking, a lot of demand, to go into more detail on a lot of different things. And the podcast is a brilliant way to actually just get it out, just get it recorded and tossed out there without very little editing or no editing, So one of the topics that I've been asked pretty repeatedly about, and it's something I don't like brushing aside. I want to go into detail about it, is depression, anxiety, and even the opposite spectrum all the way to intimacy. And I think it all falls under the category of emotional health, possibly even spiritual health, but definitely tying in as an essential raw component of overall well-being, and especially physical health. And one of the people that encourages me to go into more detail about it is my good friend Sherry here, and she's here to help guide the conversation. It's not just me talking, to my notepad kind of thing. So, Sherry, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited, and like I said, people have been asking for this for a long time, so I'm pumped to go into more detail. Hope everybody can hear clearly. I got this cool new headset. It's working super good. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Cool. So you've seen a lot of people ask about this on the stories and on the lives and such, and even on a live platform where ostensibly we could go into as much detail as we want. It's still not going to really focus a full hour or a full discussion on that one thing. So I know you've got some points, and you've asked me a lot of questions too off record that I've been like, hey, we should record this conversation because it's important, and it's not easy to repeat it to every individual, right? In the comments or in the whatever, right? We invite people to build relationships with us and come back with questions recurring, but it's still not the same thing as really a full format explanation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another thing that I just want to point out, that usually depression is like always like swept under the rug. We don't talk about it as much, and it's not taken as seriously as physical illness. So yes, this is like a great way to kind of like give it more attention.
Well, a point on that I could bring up too is that with it not being given that much attention, the mental health or any of the diseases of attitude, they could be key in preventing somebody from actually taking the direct actions. They could know about this because, hey, they've come to us in our inboxes, they've seen our material, they know that there are specific things that we're promoting that can help them physically, but their mental blocks, whatever their excuses, or again, any of the diseases of attitude, of pessimism, or anything, maybe disbelief, will stop them from actually doing it. Maybe one of these diseases of attitude stops them from making a purchase, right? Maybe it's a money excuse, right? There's lots of people who will say, hey, I have a problem. This isn't just a health problem, but this is very common in our business. Hey, I have a health problem. And we're like, okay, cool. Tell us more about it. Boom. We give them all the information that they need. These are foods that they can avoid, all of which is free, right? It's free to avoid foods. Some foods that could help them potentially, and then some supplements that can help them. And if they come up with any excuse, to stop themselves from doing that, I mean, we've sort of done all we can do for them, right? It's the whole leading the horse to the water but can't make it drink kind of thing. And in sales, you learn that this problem of price objections is really not a price objection. It really is a value objection, right? Especially take the price range that you're working in. We're working in, let's say, $1,000. For someone comes with a serious health problem, you should expect to spend about $1,000. Get yourself equipped with some tools to help you out of that. It could be more, it could be less than that, depending on the treatment. You could be going for ecotourism in Thailand or Tijuana. That could be much more expensive, but take that relative to something that we consider essential. For me, it's a vehicle, right? I had my vehicle break down last year. I did not have the money to buy a new vehicle. I do not have credit. I had to call my mom, say, hey, Mom, can I borrow $3,500 for a new vehicle, right? And it's this, I could just as easily have given a cost objection, say, I have no money, I'm broke. I'll walk
Yeah.
or whatever, right? In my life, the bus is not the option. It's not an option. It's not. I have to travel hundreds of miles and yada yada. I need a car, right? And if people were taking the tools that they need for their physical health as seriously as they do their transportation, or the meal on their dinner table, right, then there really wouldn't be that value proposition. But of course, you can't understand the full value of taking control of your physical health until you do it. And that was a bit of a ramble there, but it directly ties into, like, you could have a physical health problem with an easy answer and completely stop yourself from achieving that.
No, you're absolutely right. The person actually really has to wanna change. I mean, I went through my depression myself, and I was very aware of what was going on, and I didn't want to feel the way I wanted to feel. So I made sure that I did everything that I could that was in my power to actually go back to normal. And I think an individual has to have the same feelings in terms of like just wanting to change, or instead of just curling up in the corner and just like, um, just basically cry every day or whatever, you know. Um, so I do have a couple of questions here I do want to ask you.
Yep.
Do you want to
Yep.
dive
Go
into
ahead.
them? So I saw a couple of times on your story and on your messages, and not messages, on the comments, people talking about depression and intimacy. Do you think that those two actually go hand in
Well,
hand?
depression can come up at many different times with many different people. And when you're in this business, any people business, you realize the extraordinary variety of lifestyles and the variety of influences that can happen. Now, some people come with depression and they're married, right? They're married. They have a home. They have a career. They have kids, right? And they're on drugs for depression, anxiety, something like that. And obviously, in association with that, one of the complaints in their life is going to be a lack of intimacy. It's not necessarily that they're experiencing a lack of intimacy, but in the depressive state, they are not being intimate. They're not opening themselves up to intimacy. So one of the complaints we get people who come and say, my spouse is severely depressed. And of course, it's the wife or the husband who's doing the reaching out and not the person who's depressed, right? So the person who's concerned about it is the one who's not receiving the intimacy from the depressed person. And obviously, this is one of the many spirals that can happen, where one thing in the depressive state leads to something that will cause you to have more depression. For the example of getting started with the health regime, that's one thing. You could be on a diet. Lots of people get on a diet and they fall off, fall off for some reason. And that's going to do what? It's going to make them feel worse, right? What does fall off mean? Does it mean you go out and eat a bunch of junk food? Do you get a blood sugar spike from that? That's not going to help your mood, right? Do you get a stomach ache from that? That's not going to help your mood, right? And if you have an intimate partner in your life, or not, I mean, if you do, and you're in stomach pain, or you're in whatever, you're not paying attention to them. You're not going to give your full self to them. You can't even have a proper, clear-headed conversation if you're in stomach pain. You're focusing on your stomach pain, right? So depression and intimacy, do they go together? Yes. Can a lack of intimacy cause depression? I think a lack of intimacy can be one of the factors that people are looking for in life, right? It's just like a lack of money, right? So can a lack of money affect your mental health? Well, absolutely, especially if you're focused on the lack, right? What is the solution for a lack of money or a lack of intimacy? It's to seek it and to work for it, right? To want it. Some people would go as far as to start it, writing it down, write down your goals, see what you actually do want, and then working towards it. Can that cause depression? I mean, if you dwell on anything, it can cause depression. If you live in the past, you can cause depression. Anything in the past. One of my favorite phrases from Grant Cardone, who's a sales trainer, but I love him for many things. He says the past is for psychopaths. Right? The past is for psychopaths, and I spent a lot of my life dwelling on some of the horrors, or whatever, some of the traumas, some of the letdowns, some of the, you know, that person did this to me, that kind of stuff. And it can eat you alive, and for no reason. And every moment that you're thinking of a negative thought, how could this person do this to me thought, whatever thought, negative thought, it's distracting completely from you either thinking about a positive action, doing something that you already need to do, right? Do you already have customers? Do you already have a girlfriend? Do you already have friends that you're neglecting because you're sitting there thinking about, your negative thoughts? And I know your question was about intimacy, but go ahead.
So, so you're basically saying that, sorry to cut you off, but basically you're saying that it's not always intimacy. There's other factors that can contribute to
Well, I don't think
depression.
intimacy exists outside of any of these things, right? If you're in a crappy mood, it's going to affect your intimacy in your relationships with everybody that you deal with while you're in that mood. And there could be another source of that mood, right? I think a lot of people are believing, and I myself in the past have believed that a lack of intimacy itself was causing depression. But I don't think that's the case, because I think intimacy, unless you're in jail, you know what I mean? Unless you're isolated, like we're kind of isolated right now. I can't see a lot of my friends that are across the border. I can't cross the border, right? But for the most part, it's not really about that. Intimacy is a reward that you get for doing well in life, right? How do you build relationships? You be a good person. You do the give and take. You know, you do favors. You return favors. You invite for dinner. You have good times. And same with intimacy. That you collect relationships in life. If you do business well, you're going to collect relationships. You know, customer relationships, business relationships. You will build friends. It doesn't matter what you do, kind of thing, right? You can cut yourself off from building relationships, and you can open yourself up to that. You can do that consciously. And one of the depressing things that we do in depression is cut ourselves off, right? From what? From relationships, which are the number one thing that can stabilize us. You know, and we're going to talk about the nutrition stuff, because that's usually what I focus on, but we can also go into more detail on that. But I think actually a heart of your question here is going to be intimacy in childhood, especially, right? Intimacy in childhood, laying the foundation, the emotional foundation of the person later in life. And this is where it actually gets difficult for me. And this is sort of why I've put it off, because, you know, I always say I'll make more content on that or whatever, because there can be a ton to say in the emotional development of children. And I know myself, you know, I've been diagnosed with what's called borderline personality disorder. And it's essentially an orphan mentality, right? It's a unfulfilled longing for intimacy, even when intimacy is available. So I wanted to bring this up with it too, as well, because there's cases, I'm aware of many cases where somebody, either the male or the female, was not satisfied with the intimacy of the relationship, but it wasn't due to a lack of sex or intimacy or attention. Like these, you know, you can live with someone, you can have sex all the time, you can do it, and it still can't be enough because there's something else lacking for them. I don't ever want to get to the point where I can say that the damage done in childhood is irreversible, but it looks like it's very difficult to combat. And if you have something like an orphan mentality or an I'm on my own mentality, I think it takes a very long time to get the hardness up from life to either not be bothered by that, or to, again, develop the character and the overall lifestyle that allows you to have a bunch of healthy relationships. One thing about having negative relationships in childhood is that a lot of those relationships, supposedly, I don't have children, but supposedly can be replicated when you have children of your own, right? So if you suffered from abuse or neglect, well, showing a lot of attention to your own child can replace a lot of that, a lot of those gaps in the soul, maybe, is how I would think about it. And I'm going to invite you to cut me off here, and because, you know, I don't know how strong the childhood influences are, but I do reckon very strong. I do reckon it's very strong. And if you have been emotionally neglected, you know, if you just weren't paid enough attention to, like, we know if you don't hug children in orphanages, they can either develop severe antisocial problems or die. They can outright die. Like if you don't touch babies, they die, you know, and or become, again, weird psychopath-ish type people, right? Traits that can be considered psychopathic, narcissistic, you know, autistic, even possibly these days, even though a lot of that's blood sugar.
That's kind of crazy, actually, to think about. Like, if you weren't hugged, this is how you're gonna turn out. I don't know. It's a little extreme, but I believe it. Yeah.
Well, check it out. One of the keys to
Um,
longevity, like
Go ahead.
the non-nutritional keys to longevity, because we like to talk about the nutritional ones because it's connected directly to our business model, of course, right? They get lots of nutrients, they get lots of antioxidants, they get low junk food, and they get low calorie. And that's simple, but there's many other keys, or there's many other commonalities between long-lived populations. And one of them is community, right? So this is relationships to the extreme. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I would say it takes a village to raise a healthy child. And, you know, in our modern society, a lot of us are raised by parents who went to work every day and such, and it's just, maybe we were raised by daycare, maybe you're sort of like me, and we're not really a problem child, so you could look after yourself. When you look after yourself, who's raising you, right? This is a longing that can be created in childhood that's completely preventable. This is vitamin family, vitamin community. And that can also, again, it can be created later in life. I don't know, though, if I think it's sort of like, it could be like a nerve impulse. You could be born with slight nerve damage, and you could rectify a lot of that problem nutritionally later in life and such, but never going to be 100% to full function. So maybe it is like that with affection as well, right? Where you can be deadened a little bit, but you can still go ahead and build a good life and experience 95% of the happiness that was available to you within your genetic potential at birth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like when you talk about the kids raising themselves, I feel like that was the culture of like the 80s and the 90s. Things changed now, but that's how it was back then. And in a lot of cases, it wasn't as extreme, where like the parents would be like available. Just I feel like it's just so different now. Like right now, a lot of helicopter moms exist because of the media and whatnot.
Yeah, so the kids that are raised by
All right,
helicopter
so
parents can totally be depressed just as well, right? Especially in children, like the younger generations, especially. So I think we should split this up into two main categories. The one is nutritional, right? There's many things that we can talk about with nutrition. Let's write that down there. And then the other thing is control of your life. And if kids don't have control of their life, right? Teenagers are notorious for rebelling to what? A lack of control in their life, right? It's really what they want. I do think it is a key to health, overall health, mental health, that you want control of your life. What's the least control that you can think of? Prison, right? So this is, of course, going to be an environment that's bad for your mental health. And when you are a teenager, this is the point where you are building your personality. You're building your friendships, your relationships. You're exploring intimate romantic relationships and this kind of thing. And mostly, if you're a teenager, you got nothing, right? You haven't got a skill that's super developed that you can back your personality with. You haven't got an English. Hey, we got cut off there. Where were we?
I think we were talking about
This was like 20
childhood.
minutes ago, by the way. It's not like we just
Yeah,
got cut off 2 seconds ago. We just
yeah. So
lost
I
lost
I
our train of thought
totally
here.
I totally forgot. Yeah.
We were talking about like early relationships and stuff, and how that can have an impact on mental health. But also, you mentioned when we're talking as we got cut off that it was interesting that you can be in many different parts of life and still be depressed, right? So it's not like life events always cause depression, for sure. 100% that's not the case, right? Life events can contribute to sadness or helplessness, or take something away that you had, or supposedly prevent you from getting something you think you want, but it can't cause depression itself. It can only at best be one factor in it.
No, you're absolutely right. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a different question since we've covered that very well. So I know that you have an account and it's called Wallach account, and it's all about nutrition and vitamins and all that. And I know that a lot of times you have customers asking you about um, basically, does poor nutrition contribute to a poor mental health?
Yeah, so let's cover that. Let's rip through that. The first one that I wrote down would probably be the biggest single contributor. Like, we know the soils are depleted, right? So just throw that out there. We know that we're generally depleted in nutrients, but why are some people depressed and some people not, right? So we have to look at this combination between life events and our perception of it, right? So it's not the happenings, it's not what happens, since we expect tragedy to strike everybody, maybe not equally, but we expect it to strike everybody. It's how you react to the things that happen to you, right? It's your response to the things that happen to you that is the problem, or the winning solution. But nutritionally, my biggest contributors, in my opinion, would be adrenal burnout. Basically, too much caffeine, too much alcohol, too much sugar, anything that either depletes the body of minerals more, right? So coffee's not necessarily bad, especially 1 to 2 cups a day for an adult, but more than that, especially it's going to be draining your body of minerals, dehydrating you in the process because it's draining your salt, your water, and your other electrical minerals, as well as just the spread of the minerals that are in your blood, right? Same with sweat, right? So something like exercise, which is good and is good for mental health, and we'll bring that up in here as well. But if you exercise excessively and do not supplement the minerals that are lost in that sweat, right? Because the sweat is a soup of all the nutrients that are in your blood. We're already expecting everyone to be a little bit low on the bulk of the nutrients since they're not in the soil, and 2/3 of the essential nutrients are minerals, right? But if you are exercising, sweating excessively, then you're losing more minerals than the couch potato next to you. And both of you have the exact same access to minerals in the food supply, which is low, right? So that can contribute to a depression, anxiety. I mean, I worked in the gym for 4 years, and lots of people use the gym actually for mental health because it keeps them grounded, because it makes them feel good, because they get the runner's high, because they get the, whatever, the overall good feelings, the social environment, all kinds of things, endorphins and the dopamine. And it's great. But there's also a lot of people who are still struggling with depression and anxiety in the gym world. And I know them because we have 900 active members or something like that. You get a lot of stories. So when you hear something like, oh, exercise is good for depression, we have to take this whole picture into account. And this is why, we're worth doing this podcast. So, I think you had a result with caffeine, right? Just getting rid of caffeine. People can be getting panic attacks just from caffeine. It's not the caffeine causing it. It's that you're already low on minerals. Caffeine
I
exacerbates that.
I believe that it really does depend on the individual because for me, I would drink like a tiny cup and I would put very, very little coffee and it would boost me up for like a couple of hours, say an hour, and then I would crash. And I would before this happened, before I was aware of what was happening, I used to wonder like why the hell am I so happy when I'm drinking coffee? Then after like a couple of hours, do I crash and I become so depressed and everything becomes so gloomy, And like I said, I only drank like 1 cup and it was really tiny. Um, so I really do believe that it depends on the individual. And for me, my caffeine just does not go with me at all. Like my body cannot tolerate it. So because you said right now that, it's okay for an adult to actually drink a couple of cups. And I feel like it really does depend on what your body can tolerate, you know?
Totally. And it's the same with alcohol too, right? Some people are just really, really intolerant to it. And there's a lot of people with depression, anxiety out there, and they might only hear us talking about blood sugar and this and that, but they could be drinking coffee all day, every day. They could be waking up to a coffee. They could not be realizing how much that's contributing to their mental health until they got rid of it. And coffee is one of those weird things where it has a sort of withdrawal, right? Basically, anybody who drinks coffee every day, you're going to go through a little bit of withdrawal from it. You might get a headache from not drinking it, right? So you might even need to wean down the caffeine, but it could be a big contributor. Increase in the salt, increase in the water, can help compensate for that dehydration. If I have extra caffeine in a day, I definitely go out of my way to have more water, more salt, and more vitamins. Like just I put an extra scoop of supplements in or whatever, just to compensate for that. But alcohol, again, I think it's going to be a big one too. Alcohol, not only because of the semi-poisonous effect, just sort of like caffeine, but also which doesn't necessarily bad, by the way, right? There's the longest of cultures, they consume nightshades, they drink alcohol, it's not a low level of toxicity seems to be good to actually stimulate our immune system. It seems to actually encourage longevity and immunity rather than hinder it. So the optimum longevity strategy doesn't necessarily mean avoiding plant toxins per se, like again, nightshades or something like that, cruciferous vegetables. These aren't bad. The low level inflammation, tiny level inflammation from mushrooms and this kind of stuff could actually be good for longevity. I'm saying that because alcohol has a correlation with longevity. We have no idea whether it's just lost in the data and that people who live a long time happen to drink a couple of glasses a day, but it does seem to be that 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol a day, servings of alcohol per day. I think it's 2 on an adult male and then a 1 maximum on an adult female for a positive benefit to longevity, meaning you'll live longer. It is correlated, again, not causative, but correlated. You live a bit longer if you drink a little bit of alcohol every day. But that's not typically the case. It really isn't typically the case that we have 1 or 2 glasses. It's the case that we tend to drink a little bit more, or that we're being so affected by it that's out the window. The people who have already anybody we have on record who lived to 100 or more, they grew up in a time that was much different than ours. Our nutritional environment is growing up in the modern world is so far removed from what your great grandparents would have grown up to. What anybody who is 112 years old now, the way that they grew up, way more nutrients in the environment, way more factors to allow a more stable foundation for them to utilize alcohol. And I want to allow you to jump in here too. Neither of us really drink, right? And I think that matters overall in your mental health. And alcohol obviously is a depressant as well, so it can physically bring you down, or sorry, mentally bring you down, as well as spike the blood sugar, which of course a blood sugar spike at all, having a blood sugar problem at all is almost always going to be associated directly with a mood problem, right? The ADHD, bipolar, the behavioral components of autism, these are all blood sugar imbalances. They fall into the blood sugar problem category in our world. So as well, without too much sugar, right? Just too much sugar in the food. Generally, eating too much sugar can contribute to an overall poor mental health. And this, by the way, I believe we talked in the break. And again, I want you to comment. You can jump in anytime. But we talked about some of those people who are pretty much fine, meaning they have a wife, they have a husband, they have family, they've got a pretty nice house, they got money. It's not a problem. Their problem is most likely largely nutritional, right? Whereas there's some people whose health just sucks. They're poor. They're eating ramen noodles. You know, they're drinking beer. Like, of course, all of that stuff is going to contribute to an unhealthy faculty, and this is the substrate that your mental health takes place in, right? Your mental health takes place in the body. If you eat Doritos, I love this phrase. I love saying it. If you eat Doritos and Pepsi, your body's literally going to try and rebuild itself with Doritos and Pepsi. And what kind of brain is that really going to build? Is it going to build a strong, healthy brain? You know, all its nerves firing full strength? I really don't think so. I think the body's going to struggle really, really hard to do anything with the standard diet, or even the standard healthy diet from the grocery store. There's just not that much raw material in the food that's available to us in the modern world to really do that. Give me a comment on that before I ramble on too much.
No, it's okay. No, I agree 100%. I remember when I was going through my depression, and I went through like a severe depression after having my kids, and I remember that I used to always think, okay, make sure that I'm eating good, but I didn't know you then, and I didn't know about the gluten and all that stuff. So, but I just made sure that I would eat healthy, no junk food, none of that. I would exercise. Um, and just that little thing right there kind of changed my mental a lot, not a little bit. It was an extreme turnover for me. So yeah.
You mean the gluten? Like this is, or
So
just the healthy eating in general?
just healthy eating in general. Like the gluten for me was more about digestive problems. It was not mental health. Like for people, it probably is. It contributes to mental health. But for me, it was more about digestive problems. But I'm talking about just in general, um, eating healthy.
And what do you mean by eating healthy? Like what? Fresh foods, vegetables, fruits?
Basically not having any junk, not eating from outside, making your own food, limiting the carbs, a lot of salads, you know. And like I said, before I met you, I didn't know about the processed meats and I didn't know about that. So I thought at the time that I was eating healthy, say if I was eating like turkey or something like that, a turkey sandwich. But now that I met you, I've learned that, okay, processed meats are very bad, and gluten isn't so great for your body as well. And, you know, and stuff like that. But like I said, it was even, I did that little change of just like changing, and I've never eaten bad anyways. I've never really, I'm not a junk person. But just changing, just doing like little things kind of contributed to me actually getting better. So imagine if somebody goes all the way, and cuts out all the bad foods and everything.
Yeah, totally. It can totally make a huge difference. Like again, it's especially if you're actually physically feeling bad because of the foods that you're eating, and even worse if you don't know it. But a lot of people when they're depressed, they do know it. They do know that butter tarts and pancakes aren't going to make them feel any better, but they do it, right? So
Well,
there's,
for their
go ahead.
argument, they're going to say that it does make them feel better. That's why they do it in terms of like, mental wise, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I've spoken to a couple of people that tell me that when they're sad or something, they eat. And I tell
Hmm.
them, why do you eat? It's because it makes me feel better. Um, but better not in terms, it's just comforting. It's comforting foods. You know what I mean?
I want to jump in there. I want to jump in there because the binge eating, this can be a huge problem too. And but I've done this too, by the way, right? I mean, I used drugs for my early years, but I quit a long time ago when I was like 16. So I wasn't really able to lean on that. And truthfully, like I smoked cigarettes for a long time as well, and you just can't kill enough time on it. You just can't kill enough time on it. There's not enough involved. Eating's, I mean, if you're just going buying chips and eating chips constantly, that can be quite quick. It's like having a smoke the last 5 minutes, right? But just the act of snacking and all this stuff, buying it, going out shopping for it, and it's taking you away from boredom, is what I'm saying. That like probably half of the reason that we use these things is to get away from boredom. And when we're talking about, what's the cure above, like the cure is action, in my opinion. It's action, right? If you have a physical problem, maybe it's a lack of money, maybe it's a health problem, maybe it's whatever, it's taking action towards that. And we're talking about some of the spirals of depression that can take you down worse into depression. But taking action, first of all, relieves the root of most of the, like, aside from physical anxiety, which we'll talk about. We'll talk about lithium, whatever. But it removes the actual trigger, right? The trigger to smoke or to eat or to whatever, have these suppressive spiraling thoughts, is action. And that one positive action can spiral into a positive ladder, instead of a negative ladder where you fall into a spiral of depression. This can create, one good action can lead to another good action, or one good action leads to one good feeling, which leads to more motivation to do another action, etc., etc., etc. Building that into a habit system, making your life better. It is the only way to actually make your life better too, right? Because that's the other side of the coin. The one is nutrition, and we'll just keep peppering each one into here. One is nutrition, the other one's control of your life. And the only way to change your life is to change your habits, right? How do you change your life? You change something about you. If you do the same thing every day, you're going to have the same life, right? You're going to have the same results from the same actions that you're taking. If you want to improve your life, you need to have conscious, results driven actions. You need to keep yourself in check with that. You need to measure your results. You need to make sure you're not doing useless actions, right? Just taking action alone is not enough. You got to build something. And I mean, a lot of people will recommend just distracting yourself in a way, right? From boredom, from anxiety, from whatever negative thoughts. And it's just, to me, it's not enough. You have to connect it to some larger overall picture. And that's where community comes in too, right? If someone was deprived of community early on, maybe they have a very hard time understanding that. But building a business, building a family, building any of these things, is a community. And that the act of being involved in something and being busy in that, first of all, you're not bored. Second of all, you get that community factor in there that makes you feel good. In my own life, the best times that I've ever had in life were in group projects. We were all working on something together. We were all in on it together. And that togetherness, I think, just is absolutely key. One of the keys one of the key phrases they say in depression is, I feel like I'm on my own. And this is, of course, regardless of whether they have a family or not. Like, you could actually physically be alone or not and still have feelings of loneliness. But definitely being involved in things, being involved in volunteering, working with children. I've been involved in the NGO, non-government organization volunteer world, environmental causes and this type of thing. They're great. Any positive thing that brings people together, and it's not just, a one-time thing, I do think can create a huge, huge foundation for mental stability. But I want to make sure that people understand that none of these should be used as a crutch. You shouldn't be using anything to get over the depression sort of thing. It's just like the depression is lifted. It's sort of like we talk about with cures. Like, we're not looking to cure arthritis, because you don't catch arthritis. It's a degenerative process. We want to move you in the other direction to the point where you feel great, right? So you're not curing depression. You're building the lifestyle that doesn't really allow you to have depression. It fulfills what you need, and not just what you want or think you want, right? Do you have any comments on that?
No, I agree. I
One of the things you
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna mention that that, well, I was going to expand on that. That was actually like, it's been the biggest, absolute, the only times where I haven't noticed an underlying depression in my life, it was when you don't have the time to think about it, and that's being involved. And again, it's not just being distracted. It's not like you're distracted 24/7, but it's amazing when you're involved in something that you go home to eat dinner or whatever, and you're thinking about that thing still, right? You're not thinking about that other thing 10 years ago that happened, right? You're not thinking about your friend that killed themselves. You're not thinking about, the ex-boyfriend or whatever, right? You're thinking about the project. You're thinking about what you're going to do tomorrow, right?
No, you're absolutely right. I'm gonna like agree 100% on that because I sometimes I would say I would suffer a little bit from depression here and there. And when I was in school, I never did. I was always, busy with like a project or essays or tests and whatnot. And, I was always out, always, we did a lot of group projects as well, and it's different. It's absolutely different. And then when I was done with college and I was off for like a year and some change, that's when I actually started feeling again, okay, see, the thoughts start lingering in again in your head, and then you start thinking about like the bad things, and yeah, you start getting depressed again. And as a mom, and I'm at home, there's nothing for me to do. So I actually, that's when I started like doing other things with my time to kind of like you said, keep myself busy. So you're absolutely right.
Action.
Yes.
So other nutritional factors here. I mentioned lithium. It's worth going into that. There's 90 essential nutrients in our model, in our world here, and lithium is one of the 60 essential minerals, 60. And lithium, most of us know of it being used in pharmaceuticals, right? That's where it entered common parlance, lithium. And to make a pharmaceutical, you can't just patent a mineral. You have to add something to it, right? And this is why drugs are toxic. I mean, they choose to add toxic ingredients. If they literally just delivered lithium in a sugar pill or a sugar capsule or something like that, or whatever, a capsule with cinnamon, any other carrier, doesn't matter, that it would have a similar effect. And of course, we're not telling anybody just to go out and take one mineral, right? There's just an interesting correlation between a lack of lithium in the food supply, but also in specific drinking waters in counties. And you can see this. And Dr. Wallach and Dr. Schrauser years ago did a super interesting set of work discussing the correlations between violence, many different forms of violence, and lithium in the drinking water. There seems to be a pretty decent correlation, and this is a super trace mineral. We need a tiny little amount of it. Anybody could boost it at the pharmacy. I do believe in pretty much any country in the world you should be able to buy some lithium. I don't think we make a lithium supplement because it's just in the spread of the mineral complex that we use. But that could be one thing. Like if you have everything else in the world, you got every other mineral in your soil, you're all good. Your lifestyle is totally like you would be getting the nutrients in the wild, and you got a family and everything, and you were just missing lithium. I think you'll be depressed, truthfully, or anxious. That's the unexplainable anxiety, right? There's people who have crippling anxiety that nothing happened to them, and we get in trouble for this too because we talk about PTSD, right? And I know every time that we mention that PTSD has any relationship to nutrition, somebody gets upset by it. Somebody who has been diagnosed with PTSD, believes they have PTSD, someone who's a spouse or a mother or a brother of somebody who has PTSD, they come and say, man, if you only knew what those guys went through over there, if you only knew what she went through, if you, whatever, right? And I don't mean to dismiss it, but somebody taking that kind of a stance, like my pain is so special that I have a disease because of it, it actually, to me, discounts everybody else who's suffered, right? For every single person who's come to me and said, I was tortured when I was a child, like, whether they're dramatized it or not. See, my parents tortured me. My brother molested me. My uncle beat me. They locked me in a shed. You wouldn't believe some of the things I've heard. It's a 50-50 chance between whether that person's going to be mentally handicapped from that or not. It's 50-50. It's a complete wild card of whether they're going to take that for an excuse later on in life or not. And for every person that who did go through that, and again, they say they have PTSD or something like that, they need drugs, they need disability. There's people who went through that and don't have those ongoing issues. They don't blame the past. They're not stuck there, right? They don't, and these problems are rampant too, right? Like people, I don't know how much the average person understands about abuse and everything, but again, in this health world, you're really open to the realization of how rampant abuse and neglect and is in the population, but not just in children, ongoing. Adults deal with this, right? Unbelievable amount of adults are in abusive relationships. And then we're not talking unfulfilling, we're talking controlling, we're talking, they feel trapped. We're talking not always that they're getting hit either, right? It's just that these are abusive relationships by their nature, not necessarily by the form that they take. So
Yeah. So I do want to ask about in terms of like I mean, I know this is true, and I know that men and women suffer from depression differently. Um, for example, a lot of women actually suffer from depression because of the things that happen to their bodies, whereas men, it could be stress, like you said, it could be a lot of other things that contribute to their depression. Um, but do you like have a comment on that in terms of like the way um, behavioral wise in terms of how they would react to their mental health, men and women.
body image,
It's both.
is that
Well,
the
no, 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 I'm not. Well, body image is that's a huge topic right there. Yeah, absolutely. I was just talking about in terms of like a lot of women, for example, they menstruate, they have babies, a lot of things happen to their bodies, um, where it causes depression, but men, it's something else.
super interesting question, actually, now that I understand the question. So when people come to us and they come with anything, no matter what, they reach out to us. Hey man, been following your content for a while. Hey man, have this problem. I got diabetes. We always hit them with a list of questions. We can't proceed with them until we know more information. We give them this list of questions. Now we get a lot of men on Instagram because it's a highly male platform, but in the real world, in the health world, we deal with mostly women. The huge majority of distributors, the retailers, and customers in the whole health world are female dominated, right? It's a female world because women are more concerned about their health generally. And so it's interesting. People wouldn't understand, but if they sent us a list of questions and they come back and say, I'm a male, one of my things is that, oh, okay, it's good. If they're young, I'll say it's good news that you're young. If they're not heavy, I'll say it's good news that you're not heavy. And if they're male, I'll say it's good news that you're male. And then I don't go into the explanation, but to me, it's true because women have that extra added stress that their body forces them to lose a bunch of nutrients every month, right? The process of menstruation is very taxing. The process of growing a child in you is extremely taxing. This is where pregnancy cravings come from. This is where pregnant nausea comes from, morning sickness. What's happening? The fetus is stealing the nutrients of the woman to the point where she's nauseous. She doesn't have enough nutrients to stabilize her balance. I mean, she doesn't have enough nutrients to like the cramping and this kind of stuff too with menstruation. These are a big group of minerals that are involved in bone, joint, muscle health. And if you're menstruating, you have an increased demand on that. So it is essentially a deficiency when you reverse engineer that the cramping is caused by a deficiency, but the cramping is also causing a deficiency because it's causing the increased demand, if that makes sense. Obviously, so it's like saying the menstruation causes the cramping, but menstruation causes the need for more calcium and its cofactors, which causes the cramping. Also, the good fats here are very, very important. And by the way, this is one of those things too. I mentioned stomach ache earlier. Well, if you're miserable around your period, it's going to affect your relationships. It's going to affect your life. This is like what, almost like 10% of your life kind of thing, right? That you're spending menstruating. And so the good fat deficiency is going to be involved in any hormonal problem, if it is a hormonal problem. So the other things that are associated with female problems, again, like hot flashes and anything like that, anything in menopause, it's going to have a lot of relief to do with good fats. Now, there's a lot of conscious people out there that are now have gone to veganism because that's what's been promoted as the path of what to take. And veganism is going to deprive you of a lot of these good fats. It's not saying that you can't get them as a vegan. It's just saying that you're very likely to have greatly reduced your good fats in a vegan diet. And especially because we're advising not to use oils, cooking oils, salad dressings, anything like that. So where the vegan is going to get their fat from, I don't know. I don't know how much avocados you can stand that you can take, right? But this is what your brain's made of as well, right? So your hormones themselves are physically made of 85, 95% cholesterol. And this is estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, adrenaline. These have a lot to do with your mood. These have a lot to do with your energy, right? Again, you could have chronic fatigue syndrome from a nutritional problem, and then you don't have the energy to get up and do what you need to do. If action is the cure for depression, or action is the cure for a lack of money, or action is the cure for a lack of intimacy, but you're too tired to take action, right? This is going to be something you're going to need to take action on first. You need to take action on the nutrition part to fix that. And of course, that's what's nutrient deficiency generally. We advocate the 90 essential nutrients strongly. And we advocate good fats in the diet. If there's anything that you can eat to promote mental health, in our opinion, other than, there's tons of evidence about feel-good hormones in turmeric feel-good effects by the consumption of many herbs and many foods. That's great. But it's specifically in giving your body the raw material it needs to have a healthy nervous system, including your brain, which is what produces the thoughts and all this stuff too, right? And it's not just going to stop producing negative thoughts, but I believe a lot of it will automatically, especially if any of those thoughts are having to do with physical pain, right? What happens when you have physical pain, that's your first arrow. This is in Buddhism, it's referred to as the 2 arrows. The first arrow is getting hit with the arrow, and the second arrow is your mind complaining about the arrow, right? Your mind being worried about the consequences of the arrow, your mind being worried about what people will think about it, etc., etc. Any of the thoughts that are having to do with a physical pain of yours or somebody else's that you do not have control about is going to be a huge factor. So consuming good fats, eggs we recommend as our number one source of cholesterol. Again, cholesterol being the primary building block for all of the sex hormones. And a lot of neurotransmitters and all this stuff too. It's all going to be governed by this hormonal system that is activated by a lot of these good fats. What are these good fats? It's not just cholesterol. It's the omegas, 3, 6, and 9. Emphasis on 3, by the way, because we tend to be lacking in 3 more so than the other ones from dietary sources. And then we also have the vitamins D, E, A, and K. And these are all strange vitamins, the fat-soluble vitamins, and D is one of them that is a hormone, and you could look at E as a hormone as well, and maybe even vitamin A. They're very strange. So this has a lot to do with your overall hormone activation, and this has a ton to do with your mind. It's not even your mindset. Your mindset is something conscious, but your mind in general is working on the raw material, the raw substrate that you have. And almost everybody can notice, by the way, the easiest way to note that food can, contribute to your mood is if you get cranky when you're hungry, right? It's going to be a sign of low blood sugar, but it's the most obvious way to illustrate that, you get hungry enough and you don't want to deal with nothing. You don't want to do work anymore. Right? Everything else turns off. So having a healthy eating life is definitely takes a huge burden off of our other responsibilities, if that makes sense. It makes us allows us to do everything else. It clears our mind up from dealing with its own issues. And any issue that we have, like say you had arthritis and you cured it and you stub your toe, that pain is now going to take over your reality, right? Or humans were really, really good at actually getting over things, which is funny because in depression it's a problem of dwelling on things. But in actuality, we're super good at moving on and getting right on to the next problem, right? You won the lottery. Okay, great. You popped the wine bottle. Now what's the next problem? Your mind is going to come up with something immediately to fill. Maybe it's hunger. Maybe it's whatever, but the mind never rests. It always goes on to the next problem. And this doesn't have to be a bad thing.
And
go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. And do you think that they both deal with depression differently in terms of men and women?
Psychologically, I'm not sure. By the way, that was the main thing. I don't know if I fully explained that. It's better to be a man generally in the health sense specifically.
Yeah, you did say that.
You are not losing as much nutrients. You're not menstruating.
Yeah.
You don't have to build a child. The woman's going to need a lot more nutrition to do that. Also, the woman's going to have a lot of added pressures on her that the man doesn't really have, right? It's not just the pregnancy and whatever. It's the responsibility of dealing with that pregnancy. And quite honestly, they get a lot more of that responsibility than the man does in pretty much every normal circumstance, right? So are they going to take it differently? I like talking about the sex differences. I think it's super interesting that the embryo starts female and then transitions to male later on. I think it's super interesting that women in general, because we're in a depleted environment and because the woman loses more nutrients than men, women suffer with more chronic disease, right? So that's why the bulk of our customers and such are women. because they have more of the osteoarthritis problems. They have more calcium deficiency. Is one of the things sped up with menstruation and childbirth. You grow a child, you grow the skeleton baby. You know, it robs you of all these minerals and such. But then then also the added pressures. And so it's like the triple whammy of the worst people that we tend to see, other than like nurses on shift work, male or female, doesn't matter. Shift work is super hard on the body, but women who have had children and were an athlete on top of that, you have maximum nutrient loss, right? So and numerous times we've dealt with men and women at the same time. A lot of them have been married a long, long time. The man standing there in decent health, and we're talking 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds, whatever. Man standing there looking decent, woman's in terrible, terrible shape. She's got diabetes, she's got osteoarthritis, she's got osteoporosis. She goes to her doctor and gets the medication, takes it, right? The man doesn't. She watches her salt. This is another problem, psychological problem. No, it's not psychological problem, but psychological difference that women are way more likely to take the doctor's advice, way more likely to do the salt restriction, the cholesterol restriction, way more likely to take the statin drugs, right? And they're suffering because of this if they do that. And there's plenty of instances where I've seen the man who's just fine. Again, he's eating whatever he wants, right? He's eating burgers, whatever. He doesn't care, but he's not watching his salt. He's not watching his cholesterol. He's not taking those stupid drugs, and he's better off because of it. Do women and men on a fundamental level process emotions differently? I don't really think so, unless you were talking about like the connection hormones of a mother and child, right? I don't think it'd be the same level between a father and child, but other than that, I think humans we're pretty predictable in our behavior. Our psychologies are very similar, much more similar than we like to admit. But the difference is the only bad thing about our differences is that we've been sort of led to believe in the modern world that we should all sort of behave the same. And so though we do have differences, they should be appreciated, is sort of the only relevant thought that I have on it. I don't think that those differences contribute to mental health. Like, I don't think a woman or man is going to be any more likely to be depressed based on their physiology, if that makes sense. There might be a lot more factors taken into consideration in their culture and whatever, right? Disempowerment being one of the primary causes of dissatisfaction, that maybe a woman's less empowered than a man anywhere in the world, kind of thing. But
yeah, that's super interesting that you mentioned that, because I think that's absolutely true.
Well, yeah, if you don't have control of your life, I mean, it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, to stay on the bright side of things. I don't know how to do it, right? Whenever I'm thinking of how to improve my life, it always goes back to gaining more control over something, right? I've been hungry. I've spent years hungry. What do? Gain more control of your finances, right? Been cold. What do? I once lived in a place where I didn't have access to the thermostat. And so I had to call them and bug them to turn the heat on. And when they turned it on full blast. And it was on 24/7, right? You're talking about misery. Talking about I had a girlfriend. You know what I mean? I had a place to be. I had things to do. And my freaking heat wouldn't turn off, And I'm sitting there like, it's winter. I'm in my boxers sweating, with the door open kind of thing. So what I'm saying is lack of control in life can make you miserable really, really quick. And you don't
even if it's
that,
like the tiniest, you're basically saying, even if it's like a tiny thing, right? It doesn't matter. Like, I understand. Even if like you're not control of something that's very simple, you're still gonna like not make yourself, but you will be miserable a little, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, totally. I had visitors too in that apartment, by the way, with the heat that wouldn't turn off, and they were miserable too. They were miserable too, man. Like, what is this? Weird.
Okay, so I think that you actually mentioned something that was very, very super interesting. You got that from my question, but that's not what I meant. And you mentioned the body image, and I just want to like ask, like, how does the entertainment industry affect our psychological thoughts?
A super, super interesting question. So answer the first one. Body image. Again, body image just seems to be a little bit divorced from it, because it's more in your interpretation of your body image that's the problem. And you can have a problem with your body, and you can take action on it in a number of different ways. You can go to the gym, you can change your diet, sometimes plastic surgery. I mean, by the way, the reason I would mention that is gynecomastia. I now know that gynecomastia, which is an enlargement of the gland behind the nipple, the male nipple, I now know that this can be reversed nutritionally, and that's something we should hit hard with, like YouTube ads and stuff. Be like, hey, instead of paying the 5,000-10,000 for the surgery, you do it nutritionally, boom. But it's hard to do. So if you do have something that's like causing you anxiety, like just like you're feeling like people are judging you, I mean, it can be hard to turn that off. And if it is something like this is something that kids will get teased to the point of suicide about, right? We're talking about kids with little boys with tits kind of thing, right? Like you can believe that you can gonna get picked on for that. And girls can have the same sort of problem too. Girls can tease each other for having breasts that are too small, or breasts that are too big, or nipples that are too big, and all kinds of body things, And you mentioned entertainment, but I have to say that it's just like the bad things happening to you in life. You can go through torture and have a really poor attitude about it, a really bad outlook about it, and let it affect your future, or you can be tortured and not let it bug you. And there's plenty of fat people out there that they're not stuck up in their body image kind of thing, right? It's about how they interpret it. Now, you should look at your body image and try and be healthy, and looking good, in my opinion, is a consequence of being healthy. And even if you got a big dirty scar down your face, like, I don't think that takes away from your beauty. You would probably agree with me on that. I think most rational people would agree with you on that as long as you're a kind person and you're a good person, you don't even need to really be kind, but you just need to be good, solid to your values and whatever, and be reasonably healthy, and you can be reasonably attractive. There is not that huge extraordinary difference between people. Some people dress up differently and stuff, but if you're actually looking at the human being, all they need to do is be reasonably healthy, and they're going to be reasonably attractive, in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely right. You're
So if you have a problem, like, say, for instance, if you're overweight, and forgive me if you have some more
No,
to say,
it's
but
okay.
this
Go
is
ahead.
a continuous thought. If you have stretch marks, if you have whatever, again, a chest problem, something, anything like that, maybe balding. Balding's a bad one because it can be really hard to reverse. Maybe, I don't know, but whatever. The balding shouldn't be a problem. You shave your head, get over it, wear a wig. I don't know, but if you have something that's bothering you about your body and you don't have control over that, and you don't have hope for that, that could be a big thing, right? Like, and I was in the gym world, I'm also in the health world now. I know there's a ton of people who are overweight, have been looking at themselves in the mirror for 20 years, and have been trying to do something about it and have failed, right? Well, all the time, we got people in the gym who pay for memberships, come and they run on the treadmill every day, and they don't get results, right? So that can be really disheartening. And if you are taking the action, you're taking the proactive action, to get a hold of your self-image, right? And you're obviously feeling bad about it. That's why you're doing something about it. And if you're failing, that could be bad, right? And this goes back to the lack of control. So the good thing with us is that we know how to help people lose weight, no matter what, no matter who you are. There's something special about you. We can help you lose weight. And stretch marks, stuff like that. Stretch marks can take a long time to rebuild. Can take up to a year or more to rebuild. But you should expect pretty quick results. I mean, you should expect a pretty quick moving in the direction of feeling better, looking better, all that kind of stuff. And that's part of the positive spiral, right? And the same, that's with any exercise or nutrition program, that as you begin to feel better, you'll feel better about feeling better, right? You'll feel better about looking better, and that can definitely help your body image, So but yeah, having a bad body image is not itself going to cause depression. There are plenty of people who are pretty comfortable with the fact that they're not overly attractive. They're pretty comfortable with the fact that they're overweight. Actually, the best example is old people. I don't know if you know any super old people, and they know they're not picking anyone up at the bar, kind of thing. And so they've just thrown all pride out the window. You know those type of people? Like, so you could imagine yourself, like, you're a beautiful woman. Imagine yourself at a 95-year-old shriveled up raisin in a wheelchair, and you probably don't feel very attractive, yet there's plenty of people out there who are just forget about looks. Their looks are completely out the window, and yet they're able to maintain a positive spirit.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I also I feel like it boosts your confidence dramatically when you have like a very good like self image about yourself. But do you want to
This could also come from the products of your work as well, too, though, right? And I know you talked about
yeah, I
entertainment
was
too, and
about to ask you. You want to
I want to bring that.
make
Yeah.
comment about that as well?
So entertainment in general can create a really distorted image of humanity, Like, and this is a general
Well,
grumble that
this is why
people have
I
commented on
asked
for a
that
long
question.
time.
Like next, because I feel like body image and the entertainment industry like have like it has a huge impact on the way we look at our bodies. So go ahead.
It really does. It really does. I do want to say too, though, that sense of self is a little bit more than sense of body as well. So that if you're primarily like, if you, the thing that makes you you is mostly mental, maybe you're a writer, maybe you're an artist, you know, something like that, then it might not really matter what you even look like, right? It depends on how much importance you put on each category and how much other things are there to prop up your character, kind of thing. But if we're looking at entertainment as a model, you know, it's very easy for us to think that no one has acne, right? Nobody has acne on TV. Until recently, there was no fat people on TV at all, right? Like, really, for the most part, you flip channels, there's no fat people, and even the fat ones, they're actually they're dressed up and tucked up and makeup up so that they don't look as bad as you would, you know, just generally being overweight. And I mean this, that like anybody, if you or I were to gain a bunch of weight, we would look worse than we do now, period. Right? If we were overweight, we would look worse than we are, no matter what. You're more likely to have bags under your eyes and bumps on your skin, hair to fall out, you name it, right? Obviously, smells that come out of you, this
Well,
kind of thing, like the overweightness
well,
is
you're
not going
talking
to
about
help you in any way.
obesity. There's a difference between being obese and being a little bit maybe not just being a little bit not I'm not going to even say overweight. Some people are just not skinny. You know what I mean? They're not they have more meat on them and but that's probably fine. You know what I mean? Obesity is a different issue. Obesity is that's when diseases are caused and a lot of problems happen and their lifespan gets much smaller. But I feel like in my opinion that the thing about the entertainment industry, and this is something that as a woman I understand, it's like it's whether you go on Instagram, Facebook, magazines, whatever it is, they're always putting a certain image in front of you, and you're not allowed to have a little bit of a stomach. You're not allowed to have, a little bit of like loose arms or whatnot. And I think sometimes that's okay. Like in my opinion, it's okay for them to like not be perfect. You know what I mean? And if they're comfortable with that. But if you're not comfortable with that and you want to be healthy and you want to look great, go ahead, right? So, but I feel like your point you were talking about is obesity and being a little bit, not being a little bit, but basically not being skinny or not fitting the image that the entertainment world always puts out there that women have to look a certain way. It's different, don't you think?
No, totally, totally, and it is definitely probably more pronounced for girls than for guys. You know, just even historically, guys seem to care a little bit less about how they dress and that kind of thing, and girls, they are for sure comparing themselves not even to the full blown women of their time, but now we have children's entertainment with very dolled up little girls and boys, right? Everybody looks good, everybody looks crisp, and most of the time they are actually a lot older than they're playing, right? So you got a 19-year-old playing a 13-year-old kind of thing. That's a distorted image too, right? So say you're a 13 year old girl, and all the 13-year-old boys that were looking at Selena Gomez 7 years ago or whatever. You're comparing yourself to Selena Gomez, but she's older than you. She's more developed. She's got makeup on. She's got whatever shirts that probably give her a curve. I don't, all kinds of things that can be used, and that's just in production tricks, right? Lighting and all this kind of stuff. The average girl out there with selfies knows that the angle can change everything, the lighting can change everything, a bit of makeup can change everything. So, and we know too that when we present ourselves to the world on social media, we are presenting a distorted image too. We're presenting things slightly better than they are. But for entertainment contributing to depression, I think it does it in a number of ways. I think number one, it takes you away from action. Like, it's okay to kick back at the end of the day and watch a movie, right? But people often, in my opinion, are using entertainment way too much. If they want something more in life, you need to do an audit of your time. If you look into personal development at all, any of these sales books, most of them will be like, yo, you need to audit your time, check out where you're spending your time, because we all get the same amount of time, and if you're not using yours efficiently enough, we need to find the gaps in it. And most often, the big portion of people's time budget outside of their responsibilities that they cannot escape, school, work, family, whatever. They got this big block of time that they spend on entertainment, and it's just going to be stealing time away from anything that can be done to enhance their lifestyle, right? Again, this is if depression has anything to do with lacking in life, then entertainment is going to be taking you away from that, because the answer to the lack was action, and just consuming entertainment is just not action. So of course it's got some distorted image stuff. It's also can suck us into it, waste our time. We're not doing anything when we're watching TV.
Absolutely,
We're sitting
yeah.
down most of the time,
Mhm.
right? I like to get up and stretch and do all that kind of stuff. End of the day, stretching and whatever, you know, do a little bit of minor exercises, that kind of thing. But generally, we're sitting down, we're watching TV, and we're the least likely to be mentally flourishing when we're sitting down doing nothing. And if you turn the box off, or if you were a creature that couldn't see the TV, and you walked into a room and a bunch of people were just staring at a box, you'd be like, what is going on here? You know, they're not moving, they're not talking, they're not barely even blinking.
It's
It's
weird.
just a
It
very
is,
vegetative
yeah.
state. It can't be good for circulation. You know, I don't think it's going to be good for your blood sugar and just whatever. I mean, it might generate some new ideas if you see something interesting. I'm not saying that entertainment is bad. I'm just saying that, again, if it's overused, definitely. I want to say that the worst entertainment for mental health, in my opinion, and this is pretty mainstream now, is the pornography industry. Consumption of pornography, both from males and females, and for several reasons. Now, I'm going to throw out the easy one and just kind of get rid of it, that there's people in the truther world, the woke world, the new age world, that are anti-masturbation for males for more than one reason. One of the reasons is because the seminal fluid itself, they're making the case that this is an important fluid to be retained in the body, an important part of the life force. Now, my argument with that would be that blood is the life force, the life force. You can lose blood. You're not going to die. It's not good to lose blood per se, but as long as you are replenishing your body with what it needs, it's going to make more blood. It's going to make more semen. It's going to make more spinal fluid, right? It's going to make more neurotransmitters. It's going to make more stem cells, whatever, right? So I'm not anti-masturbation for the purpose of ejaculation, because I know, again, you can replenish those nutrients, and for that same reason, I would be against sex. And now they go into the Kundalini and whatever, where they're you can experience more pleasure with sex, both male and female, by delaying the orgasm, right? So working up to the point of it and then stopping and then continuing on. And that's all great, but I think it's these things have been thrown together and they're not that great, right? Because they're partially making a case that it's in benefit to your mental health to not masturbate if you're a male. Whereas I think you can just replenish yourself and be quite fine. And I think you can have better sex if you do delay it and follow those practices as well. But they're also saying for psychologically. Now, we haven't talked about porn yet, but we're assuming that the modern masturbation is taking place in front of pornography of some kind. But the psychological impact of masturbation, I think, is equally deleterious, especially in the young male, especially if they're spending too much time on it, just like the TV. This is an impulse not that you have to go do in private as well, right? So and we deal with this. We deal with porn addiction. We deal with masturbation addiction. We deal with sex addiction. It's not the everyday bread and butter part of our business, but it comes up. And what happens when you have a secret addiction, like to masturbating or to a drug that is not approved of in your social circle, what you have to do is distance yourself from that circle in order to engage in that activity. So there's people who may not go to a family event because it's going to take 6 hours and they can't masturbate in that time. Seriously, this is real, right? It's just like a smoker being like, I don't know if I want to go to that place. I can't smoke for 8 hours, right? Like, for real. So it can take you away from your friends and family. It can take you away from potential opportunities to have healthy relationships with real human beings. And it can, just like it rob you of just like the TV robs you of time to make your life better, same thing. But more than that, it definitely distorts the image. I'm sorry for a bit ranting. You can jump in at any time, but I hugely think it distorts the image of both male and female sexuality. Now, this podcast is not meant to be conspiracy at all, but I'm going to throw it in there a little bit that there is a conspiracy theory that there is a actual conspiracy to distort the sexual images of ourselves. So having overly sexual female role models, right, that are singing essentially male songs in a sort of male sexual dominance. It's sort of like it was written by a man, right? Like the pop songs sung by female singers are written by men, sort of. And this can confuse you if you're a female and you think you need to be that aggressive, right? Or you think you need to be that dominant. And whereas that might not be a natural inclination to you. And it's going to be the same with men too, right? There's a big conspiracy theory about the feminization of men, right? You're growing up listening to Justin Bieber, you're going to be a little bit less of a man than, you would on Merle Haggard or something like that, So that's just one aspect, but going back to the porn, obviously women don't act like that, obviously, right? And men, not every male penis is 12 inches long, right? Not every male has the stamina to go at it for 45 minutes or whatever. And obviously, it's completely possible, by the way, for any male to control their ejaculation and go longer than that. That can be a source of depression too, by the way. Sexual dissatisfaction with your own performance or with your sex life in general can be a factor in depression for sure. So if that's a problem, that could be a big thing. People, by the way, another real thing, micro penis is another real thing. I don't know if you knew that. Super tragic. I freaking feel for these guys because like, yo, what do I do about it? And I'm like, I don't think there's anything you can do about it, kind of thing. So that can take one part of intimacy away, essentially, a big part of it. That sucks. That's a birth defect that can be prevented. But so porn distorting relationships as well, of course. I mean, I don't know if you've heard it. I've heard people say, oh man, I can't even be bothered with a girlfriend. And this is because porn's available to them largely, right? And I'm not talking about asexual people. That exists. I'm talking about people that literally just can't be bothered to put the effort into to woo somebody and to, pay attention to people and do all the things that you need to do in order to receive sex back in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, right? So if you don't need to do that because you can get off by watching porn, well, that's an immediate cutoff of a source of actual human intimacy, which absolutely is a foundation of a good life, right?
All right.
I just stopped abruptly to let you comment if you
No,
wanted
everything you're saying, like, I mean, I don't know when it comes to like male, like that's not something but yeah, I think everything basically of what you said is spot on, you know. Um,
I don't know if we're going to get cut off here at the 60-minute mark. We're using Anchor here to record, and when we got cut off last time, I looked it up and said, was that a limit thing, a time limit thing? But it was 17 minutes and 32 seconds, so I think we actually just got cut off. But I think this one
well,
will
you have like
cut off
4
at
minutes
60
left if
minutes.
you want to like just close this up.
Well, I was going to say, how about we close this, pop back on just for a second, and
Okay.
close up. Just do a close up remark. See if we missed anything. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this recording.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay, so you want to continue where we left off, or?
Yeah. So, what do you think about the things that we said in this time? Do you have any comments on it?
Um, no, I don't think I have any comment on I mean, the entertainment industry, like that, I could like talk about this like
Can
for
you hear me?
hours and hours.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
I can hear you.
Cool.
You hear me, right? Hello?
Good.
Okay, you're cutting up a little bit for some reason.
Okay, that's weird, but I think we're all good now. So yeah, I had a bunch of things written down here. So I guess in summary, that most definitely your nutrition can have an impact. If you look around your life and do an audit and you can't find anything else, it probably is largely nutritional, right? Like if there's nothing big bothering you, there's nothing really big that you're dwelling on, you've got a family, you got your bases covered, you're not starving, it's probably nutritional. Everybody else, it's probably a mix of the two, except for the many people who are pretty friggin' healthy. They got their nutrients under control, and then now they need to go and work on their life. And in my own life, that was most definitely where it was. The struggle of life is one thing, and once the nutrition part was covered and I was out of pain, there was still a lot of building to do, and there's still a lot of life stuff to do. And if you're actually doing it alone, man, that's really hard. It can be really, really hard. And I made a quip at the beginning that like it can take a lot of years to really harden you up to the point where that doesn't bother you. And a lot of people don't make it then. The part of the reason we're talking about this is because this is a serious subject, and we didn't make it sound very serious because I like it to make it listenable. But I've had a lot of friends that have killed themselves and stuff like this, and depression has been around me my whole life. So this is a very big topic. It's a very important topic. I mean, I think the number is close to double the amount of suicides in the world compared to the amount of violence in the world. So people who die from violence, I'm pretty sure the number is twice as many people die from suicides, and that's ridiculously high. And these can be our friends, our lovers, our siblings, and it's completely preventable, in my opinion, completely preventable. And this is, again, because tragedy strikes us all. So the cure for depression is not avoiding tragedy. You can't avoid tragedy. If you live a long time, you're going to see friends die. Your parents are going to die. You should see your parents die, right? You should outlive your parents. Should be a traumatic experience. If you're a normal, mentally healthy person, you should be in pain because of that, right? If you have 20 kids, one of them is probably going to get hit by a car or struck by lightning or something like that kind of thing, right? There's just no way to avoid tragedy in life. There's no way to avoid hardship in life. And so a lot of people can get stuck in this too, in this victim mentality of wishing that things themselves were better, as if the things that happen are outside of, not our control, but outside of the product of our own lifestyle, if that makes sense. They're just waiting to win the lottery or something rather than taking proactive lifestyle changes, rather than making habit changes, rather than whatever, sort of like hoping you're going to lose weight without waking up and hitting the gym kind of thing, right? You've got to take proactive action. So doing the nutrition part can be a big part. Aiming for more community, I think, is the absolute biggest thing that we should do in our society. I think the culture of let's go to work and let the babysitters raise the kids, I think that's got to go. I think the raising kids on devices and sitting them in front of movies to shut them up and that kind of stuff is got to go. It does take a village, and to have a society that is filled with completely mentally healthy people, this has got to be a village structure.
Can I comment on that where you said the culture of going to work and leaving the kids? I feel like you're right in terms of that, but women have it really hard. I mean, if there were jobs that somehow allowed the women stay at home, because a lot of the places women need to work in order to actually live a good life. Life is very expensive, and so I feel like I wish, and maybe in the future this will change, where women are allowed to. They don't have to spend 10 hours at a job. Instead, they can maybe work a little bit, go home, maybe they don't even have to be present all the time at the job or something like that, where they work with the women, that would be great, but
flexible hours is a incredible
yes,
luxury in the market
yes,
of jobs, for sure.
absolutely. So, I think you're absolutely right in terms of leaving the kids at home and just that's horrible. But then again, you have to also see the point of view of the person working, or because it's not just women. Men sometimes are left alone with their kids too. Sometimes the woman just leaves, So I just wanted to comment on that.
Totally. And let me jump in on that too, because it's good to mention that lack of opportunity is also an excuse, and it doesn't matter who it's from. It is absolutely understandable that everybody needs to earn. If you are a woman or a man that has a spouse that earns money, that's great. But we're expecting people to have to be financially responsible for themselves, just as the average, 19 out of 20 people that come to us they're going to be responsible for their own finances, no matter what, whether they're male or female. And of course, again, the primary care of the children is usually less left to the female, so she's left with the same financial responsibilities, if not more, and as well as having to take care of the kids, so that can be a big thing. But I have to mention that economic opportunity here in 2020 is very different. And if we are still operating under the model of, well, I need a job to get money to live, I mean, this can create a lot of limits, a lot of limitations that we were talking about earlier. A lack of control can be one of the factors in depression. If you're trying to live on whatever, $400 a week, $600 a week or something from a job, that could be very, very limiting for you and for your ambitions and what you want to do. You know, and I don't mean go and travel the world and ride jet skis around with women in bikinis. I mean, maybe you want a little bit more equipment. Maybe you want a little bit more time to do your projects. Maybe you want a little bit more time with your kids, right? And the job itself is what's limiting it. Well, I don't believe in jobs personally. In my life, I felt that having a job was one of the things that was contributing to my poor mental health at the time. I mentioned that I did drugs earlier, and there's not much reason to actually explicitly bring that up, but other than it anchoring me as a real person and it being a big part of my story and who I am. But when I quit drugs, one of the things I did to stay occupied, first of all, was reading books. By the way, probably the most positive daily habit I ever introduced, and it continues to pay off dividends to me today. Books that I read 10 years ago, 15 years ago, is still paying off. That knowledge is still paying off. And that being part of my image and how people approach me, knowing that I've read a lot of books, literally just that one thing actually has paved a lot of the way for everything. One of the other things that I've done is got jobs. I went out and got jobs just for the sake of it, just to stay busy, just to like meet people, and you know. But I didn't like bosses telling me what to do, man. I didn't like being under such control. You know, I liked having somewhere to go, but I didn't like having to be, like you're saying, 10 hours or whatever. Like I have to be there at 7 a.m, then I have to leave at 4 p.m. Like, this is stupid kind of thing. And as a worker myself, I just always chose to work. I preferred to work in spurts. I like to work every day, you know, but I just don't like to go in and have a boss. And I'm saying this because you don't have to, is the real point. You don't have to. We get a lot of people who are in India, Bangladesh, they're like, yo, I'm a 16-year-old kid in India. What can I do? And I'm like, well, you can allow yourself to stop there and say, well, I'm a kid from India. I can't do anything, right? Or I'm limited to what's available in my neighborhood. Or you can accept that you actually have the most opportunity now than any other time that we know of in history, right? You can start a business now. If someone's talking to us, they're talking to us on a phone, you can run a business, period. If you have a phone in your hand, you can run a business. You can run a business for no upfront cost. The business that we're in, by the way, is a network marketing business. It is a multi-level business. Part of the network marketing and multi-level world is hugely geared towards that demographic of single mothers, by the way, or not even single mothers, but mothers, because one of their limits is time with their family, whether they have to work a job or not. Usually one of their primary, like whether they have to work a full-time job or not is kind of what I'm saying. Usually they want more time with their kids, or they want more money to be able to do more things with them, for them, etc. And that's just why a huge part of that business, I think it's close to 80%. I think it's like 78% of the entire network marketing business distributorship is women. And you could believe that the big proportion of that's going to be mothers, primarily because they are looking for a way to have an income and a lifestyle that doesn't mean they have to go work at the grocery store or work at the bank or work, you know, whatever, go be a nurse, right? Oh my gosh, I feel for nurses, right? Female nurses, my goodness, one of the hardest jobs in the world, on shift work, and they are usually expected to raise kids too, right? So that I don't feel is a limit. I feel that that's a limit that most people don't know about. They just don't know that you can apply yourself. And this, by the way, if action is the cure for depression and boredom being one of the triggers for the bad behaviors involved in depression, anxiety, right, the addictions and that kind of stuff, you can most definitely start to gain control of your life with that avenue. And it creates the necessity to do the actions. It creates all these things that allow you to take control of your life. And this is how I pay my bills, right? And I don't want to go to work. I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad we get a chance to talk about it right at the end too, because I feel you if you got to go in and work at a factory job, or you got to do anything that you don't want to do, anything that you once loved and now don't, anything that, right, you drag yourself up and you go. I grew up in the cold place, right? Half the year it's cold. You're driving to work cold. You're driving home cold. You're brushing snow off from your car. You're waking up early to shovel your driveway out. And of course, all of those little things can be eliminated completely by gaining financial control independent from a job. Anybody can be a business owner in pretty much every country in the world. I don't think people are listening to us in North Korea right now, right? But if you're listening to this, the chances are you can start a business right now for free. You can make your first dollar for free. You can scale it, you know, according to rules and systems that exist out there. There's so much free material on the internet that I never had to go to school to learn my trades, right? And if the main part of that is network marketing, I learned that on YouTube straight up. I learned that from some people I knew in real life. I'd call them and whatever, but YouTube, school of YouTube. And some people discount that school, but man, you're looking for personal development material. There's endless personal development material on YouTube. Books are expensive, but also you're looking for personal development material, go to your local Salvation Army or Goodwill thrift shop, and you're gonna find a whole bunch of best-selling personal development books. That's why you see them in thrift shops, because the best sellers are most likely to end up in thrift shops because there's most of them lying around. But you want some $2, $3 personal development books, go to the Salvation Army. You want them free, go onto YouTube. Almost all of the material that I've ever ingested has been from there. Truthfully, there's a lot of audio programs that can be of super benefit to you, but I'm not going to let anybody give me an excuse of why they can't build a business, if that makes sense. Like if somebody, and this comes up all the time, people say, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say you don't have to go to work. Well, the reason I don't have to go to work is because I made the sacrifices over the years, built the business, did the hard work, and now I'm at a point where I don't have to go to work and I'm eating, right? And a lot of these business things, they're going to tell you, don't just quit your job and go be a network marketer full time. That's silly, right? I chose to friggin' starve and do it the hard way, right? But most of the time, you would be working a job along the side, and the key pitch would be to build an extra income. And the key number, by the way, is $500 extra. And on this topic of depression, $500 seems to be the magic number that would stop most divorces, the magic number that would stop most foreclosures, the magic number that would give most people what they need in terms of their category of lack, right? There's some people saying, oh, I wish I could just cover that next bill or that next thing or that next. And it's not that they're looking for a Ferrari. They are looking for a couple of simple solutions in their lifestyle, and $500 usually will cover that. That is the number that's pitched in network marketing. The number that's pitched is say, hey, start a home-based business really cheap. In our case, we like to sell the $500 mega packs, but technically you could do it with a $30 distributor pack, which is an essentially free entry, right, to actually own a business. You can't go and start a store, but you can go and start a lemonade stand kind of thing, right? But with network marketing, you buy the ability to distribute products that you don't have to produce, that you don't have to ship, right? So you don't have to have a warehouse. You don't have to have anything. All you have to do is have the determination to actually do it. And whatever the business is, sign up the customers or whatever, find the customers. And it's up to you to learn how to do that. And again, excuses can be inserted at any point. It could be like, okay, yeah, well, I'm a female, so I have to, and whatever. Okay, but you have network marketing. Oh yeah, but I'm not good at dealing with people, right? You see how every opportunity creates the place for the excuse. There's no excuse without opportunity. Almost the opportunity is there. Bam, we have the excuse or the resistance to it, and you can stop yourself from doing any one of these things, or you can learn any one of these things. You can learn a language. You can learn this, right? You could learn the basics of sales. You could learn your compensation plan in our company. You're listening to us. You could talk to us. We could help you get involved in this company itself. And if this gives you, I hope we are wrapping it up with this. I think it's actually a really, really good way to wrap it up. That if this gives you what you need, meaning any business, you no longer have to go to work and all that stuff. Now you got all the time you want with your kids, all the time you want with your spouse, all the time you want to do your hobbies. Like just in the best case scenario, you're really, really limited on those amount of things that can actually take away from your well-being. Now, all you have to do is focus on your relationships and living the good life, right? Like that's a super, super good position. That's the position I'm in now, by the way. And I'm not rich by any means at all, right? I'm not rich, not balling. I drive a Kia Rio, right? But I have enough. It's a dinky little car, by the way. If anyone doesn't know what a Kia Rio is, a dinky little red car. But I've got my bills paid. I've got a nice meal every day cooked for me, and all I've got to do is focus on my business, my relationships and business. I think of them so similarly, right? If you approach your relationships like a business and you take them seriously like a business, I think that's going to be better for your relationships. But yeah, that's the position I'm in. I have all day to worry about growth rather than worried about the things that I don't have, if that makes sense. There are things that I don't have, but I'm working on getting them. They're not unreasonable, right? Maybe your goals are unreasonable and you're depressed because you can't get them. Maybe you need to reevaluate and set more properly stepped goals, right? Maybe, you're just sitting there thinking about the Ferrari and you never spend any time thinking about how you're actually going to get the Ferrari kind of thing, right? And it can be simple, man. A lot of people can just be so preventing themselves from getting on the process of fixing their lives by being stuck in that dwelling position. And one of the beautiful things about network marketing, I have to say, because it gets a lot of people have bad things to say about it. I don't know why. It's such a low cost of entry. If you fail, it's up to you. So what? Somebody says no, man. You can either change the way that you pitch, you can change the way you pitch things so that you don't get rejected, right? You can learn how to do this without the recourse of offending people and stuff. You don't have to offend people if that makes sense, right? So
Do you think you'll ever like write a how-to book on this subject? Since you're really like, what do you think?
Well, right now, actually, we made a few new YouTubes because we were putting all of our content, our longer videos on one YouTube, and it didn't make sense. So we split it up into 4 now. Now we've got the main YouTube, which is theRealNotus. That's sort of my name, by the way. I don't like same with the website. I bought it for myself. I ended up using it for health reasons, to sell health products, but that's where the name comes from. And we made a food one, so it's just food, Notus Foods. And that's great. And we made an art one, so it's just art on there, not conflicting. But I also made a business one, and that one is under the name of Wallach's Warriors. And I am going to put content up there specifically to help build the business. Number one, because I am passionate about it, at least in the sense that like I do this. This is what provides my lifestyle. So I believe in it, and I will actually do better in life if more people do this business with me, right? So it's kind of a brilliant thing. I'm happy to make content for that because, again, it helps them and it helps me. And when I was going through this, I did have to listen to a lot of stuff that really wasn't that great. Like hundreds and hundreds of hours of network marketing, training material, sales material, all kinds of stuff. You wouldn't believe it. Books, right? And on top of material specific to our company, right? Our specific products, and there's a lot of them, right? Dealing with people in specific health challenges, and there's a lot of them. Learning our compensation plan individually, because knowing about the benefits of operating under a compensation plan is one thing, but understanding your compensation plan and how to maximize that is totally another thing. When I learned how to milk the compensation plan basically properly, oh man, my business changed, right? There's a lot of people doing this in a very kind of haphazard way, and you can totally maximize your profits with that. So I've read a book about it. I'm also working on that as well. It's sort of just an overlay of everything that I know about the health business, right? And this is it's meant that it's going to be able to be used as a guidebook, and you could just get it and then with not in list form, but sort of in understanding form, understand why you need to avoid these foods, why you need to take these supplements, what to expect from it, but also in sort of my experiences in dealing with people and the kind of thing, just some tips and strategies that people could use to communicate the message further. It sounds a bit haphazard. I've got to edit it down into one coherent concept, but that is basically it. I didn't want to write this is what you do, because it's kind of boring and because we do that all the time. And I also didn't want to write something specific on network marketing, just because I think it's best to talk about it all together. And like what we just talked about here with depression and everything, maybe this is a final thought, that the business itself occupies you, but it also puts you into that community sort of thing. Like the business is a family to me. Some people in this business are family to me, literally family to me, right? I think of them like grandparents, or I think of them like big brothers or sisters or something like that. It's a very, very real thing. It can also provide, again, the income, right, that you need to actually get the physical things that you need in life. I mean, this can be a foundation for a life, is kind of what I'm saying. And there isn't much else out there like that. You can create your own hustle right now. You can go hustle baseball cards and lemonade, and you can go get stuff off Craigslist for free and flip it, right? You can go and get garbage off the rich neighborhood and go and sell it. You can do things totally, but it doesn't automatically involve anybody else. We've created a number of businesses in our life, and they usually just involve the 1, 2, 6 people that are involved, right? But network marketing is beautiful because it puts you into contact with a lot of people off the bat. Like, you already have people that support you in the business, in the pyramid, right? The people above you have every reason to support you. And most of those people that I consider family in this business, they are above me, actually, right? Which might sound weird. Some people are like, well, you just make the people above you rich. Well, I make more money than plenty of the people above me because the model also is designed to compensate those who, do the work, really. So for so many reasons, I think. I mean, again, if you're not liking your life, or you have a career that's unfulfilling or anything like this, network marketing could be part of an answer. And it doesn't even need to be the full answer. It doesn't need to be like, okay, I quit my job. Some people, you could like what you do. You could be a sound engineer. You could be whatever, and you like doing it. But having something on the side that connects you with people, having something on the side that is positive because you're helping people out of it. So that's a thought that got lost that I wanted to mention, that talking about depression. Well, I mean, this business is helping people. If you are able to help people out of depression, I mean, people can use the help. Is kind of the point. Like, a lot of it is your responsibility. But if you are equipped with these tools, not only the health knowledge, right, to just know what the body needs to work properly and not have blood sugar problems and whatever, but you also have a business opportunity for somebody to get involved with at very little cost, where if they could be one of the people that don't have anything to do with their day. They just don't have anything to do with their day. There's some people who their bills are covered. If I didn't have this business, I wouldn't have much to do all day, right? I would be doing art or something, but I'd be winging it for real. And have to come up with some kind of disciplined plan. But having this type of business gives you that, right? Gives you the roadmap. It gives you the people to work with. And in order to build the business, it requires that you come into contact with more people. And all of these things can be in itself, like in a total package, it can be a key for a cure for depression. I'm calling it a cure because you don't catch depression. I'm not legally allowed to say cure for depression, but I don't think it's classified like that anyways. But I don't mean to make it sound like that extreme. Like, go be a network marketer to cure depression, but it is absolutely one example. And if anyone does have excuses like, oh, my job sucks, or I can't get a job, or I can't earn enough, well, yeah, you can. You don't know about network marketing yet. You don't know about the opportunities online that are not network marketing. You can hustle things online. You can create an online presence. You can film your hobby. And if you don't have any, if you're too bored, get a hobby. If you've never done it before, film the process of learning the hobby. Put it online. You can monetize your YouTube presence. You can monetize your Instagram presence. You can monetize yourself in numerous ways. And I feel like I just did a huge rant there, Sherry, but I appreciate you staying with me.
It's okay. Well, this was a super great conversation, and I hope that this topic really helps people out there that are looking for answers, and just know that they're not alone. That's something actually very important. Um,
Can I mention one
and
last thing here?
Go ahead.
What were you going to say there?
No, go ahead.
I have one last thing written down here on my list of things that I wanted to mention in this, and I don't know how much any of this helped, by the way. It's such a random assortment of things, but I just know that we don't go into enough detail in general, so I hope that the long form helps in some way. But I wrote something down here because when I was getting into this business early on, the health business early on with this company, pharmacist Ben Fuchs had a CD out. He probably still does. I think it's called something ridiculous, something so Ben. It's called like the divine magnificence of nutrition or something like that, which is exactly something he would say. And in it, he was talking about one of the ways to beat a cold is to literally not allow yourself to fall into it. You feel yourself feeling a little sniffle or whatever, and the impulse is to go to bed, have a hot shower, have some tea, have some whatever. And he was saying that you should take the opposite response, that if you feel a sniffle, you should go run around the block. You should go out, go fishing. You should go out, do some push-ups. You should go out, make love to your wife. Go do something that is the opposite of giving into the illness. And it's going to be similar with depression. And when you accept depression, it's really setting you up for failure, right? You want to not accept it. If just like the cold, you want to be like, no, I have a presentation to do today. I'm not sick, right? You've probably seen this happen even in your own life. You're like, no, I'm not missing this today, right? And you just even psych your body out of it. Like, this ain't happening. And this can be with depression, right? You can get yourself stuck in the cold of depression, whereas you could have just broken out of it by going to a run, right? A lot of the times the negative spiral thoughts, it starts with one thought. You got an hour alone. You sat there and dwelled on that one thought for an hour. You could have broken that. You could have gone and done a run. You could have gone and whatever, done something, anything. Call your mom, call your kids, call anything to not sit there and dwell on that one thought, right? Exact same with dwelling on the thought of I'm sick, right? Now you're just feeding into that. And those things are good for you, by the way. Like when you're sick, it's good to rest. It's good to have a shower. It's good to have, hot bath, hot shower, steam, sauna. It's good to have hot soup and all this kind of stuff. But it's also good to just not accept it. And it's good to just maintain health and stuff anyways. Like you need sleep anyways. You need, the relaxation effects, not necessarily from hot water, but from somewhere. And you need the nourishing stuff that makes you feel better when you're sick anyways. What do we prescribe when you're sick? More of the good stuff, right? So you shouldn't have really a lack of that in general. You shouldn't really be getting physically sick, and maintaining your structure at its basic level will stop you from getting any physical based depressions and problems and such. But that was just one thought. I just wanted to throw that in there, that it can be a key to health having nothing to do with nutrition, not changing the nutrition at all. And when we say, go have a hot bath or whatever, maybe we should be saying go out and run, go out in the sun and go fishing, something proactive instead. And gearing your whole life like that in a productive life. I mean, like, it's just the same as just being healthy. It's like you shouldn't be having to go out of your way. Like, once these become habit, like I read every morning, it's as a reflex. I don't need to think about it. You'll need to put effort into these things at first. You need to put effort into dragging yourself to the gym at first. You need to put effort into putting yourself back on the dating scene, maybe, whatever it is. And then it becomes easy after that. And then it becomes part of your normal. And then what do you know? Your normal is much more healthy. Your normal is much more stable. Your normal is much more productive. And it's very likely that when that happens, by the point that happens, you're going to completely forget that you even were depressed. And that, again, our brains are so good at moving on from things that when the depression lifts, it's amazing that it's just gone, right?
Yeah. Anything else you want to cover, or?
No, I think that was a really good introduction. I hope we can even put this all together on this one app. I mean, we have to edit it on a computer or something, but I appreciate you sticking with me
Well,
through
I just
this.
want to say, no, thank you so much for like taking the time and always wanting to help, whether it's on the Wallach Warrior or your podcast or whatever it is you do, that you're always trying to help. And that's really great. That's wonderful.
It's a ton of work, and truthfully, good way to end it. That itself, that responsibility itself, means that whatever the circumstances of my life, I'm not really allowed to sit around and dwell. I have work to do, right? There's inboxes to answer, and this type of presence that I've created is something that anybody can actually create. And it doesn't need to be about health. It can be about anything that you care about, or it can be about something banal. You can build a business on something totally unemotional. It doesn't have to impact people directly, but it is
Well,
definitely.
you are
Go ahead.
impacting people though directly, and you are changing a lot of people's lives, and that's within itself is amazing,
And it does increase my well-being 100%. It does. It's not that it's like I am 100%, but I mean it has such a huge impact on it. And anytime that I feel really bad, and it absolutely does happen, I feel really lonely or something like that, I almost automatically just start thinking about some of the people that we've impacted in the past, and I think about the fact that there's 30 messages or whatever waiting for me, and that I have a responsibility to answer them, and that what I have to say is actually important to them, and that those types of thoughts are usually absent from the depressed person, right? So you can be forced to replace those thoughts by replacing the actions in your life, if that makes sense. You start doing positive things, it builds into something bigger than you, and now all of a sudden, you don't have to make it up. You automatically have a purpose. You automatically feel like you're part of something because you are a part of something, if that makes sense.
No, it makes absolute sense.
Well, I appreciate you. I'm glad you helped keep me on track. That was my biggest fear, I would just ramble for an hour or two, but I hope people enjoyed it, and I hope they enjoyed you being here with me as much as I did. And I hope
Thank you so much.
I hope people message the account or message the email or whatever. We didn't really do I'm expecting people to listen to this who already know us from the other channels, but if you haven't already, you can feel free to reach out to us about anything, and I would definitely appreciate feedback on other things to cover at this length, because some things can be covered super simply. We're not going to do a podcast on diabetes, but the depression, anxiety, intimacy, this is definitely very complicated. It's a very big part of our overall journey in life, and we're fortunate if we can understand it at all, quite frankly. So it's good that we can explore this together, and I'm excited for the next episode. And I'm going to record a couple more in the upcoming days. And Sherry, I'm hoping to maybe next week we can come back and we can record another one, you and I.
Absolutely, yes.
Cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and anybody
Thank
listening,
you.
appreciate all you, and we'll hear you next time, or you'll hear us next time. We'll see you next time. We'll run into you somewhere somehow. Take good care, everybody.